Hello superheroes, welcome to my channel. I'm Scarlet Grace from Seraph.com. I'm a manifestation coach and today's video is on a topic that many of you have been asking about. What happens when someone else wants to manifest the same thing that you want to manifest? Who wins in this case? If you've been wondering about this for a while, then make sure to watch this video until the end, because by the end of this video, you will know exactly how things work when two or more people want to manifest the same specific person, the same job, or any other specific thing for themselves. Welcome back to another video. Today's topic is on a question I get a lot from many of my viewers. As you probably already know, you can use the power of your imagination to manifest any desire you have in your physical 3D reality. But what happens when two or more people want to manifest something and there's only one of that thing? Let's say, for example, that you want to manifest a relationship with a specific person. But there's someone else who wants to manifest a relationship with that specific person too. And you both know about manifestation, the law of attraction and Neville Goddard's teachings and all that. What happens then? On the one hand, you know that you can use these techniques to manifest anything you desire. On the other hand, if both of you and the other person use these same techniques, but there's only one specific person you both want, and you both want an exclusive, committed relationship with that person, how can this manifest for both of you? Surely you'd expect in that case one person to be the winner, who gets to have a relationship with that specific person, and the other person to be the loser who failed, right? Wrong. The truth is that even in situations where you cannot logically see how things could work in a way where both you and the other person can get what you want, if you truly follow Neville's teachings, then you can both be winners. Let me explain the why and how of it all so that you can understand how it works, and so that you can stop worrying about the possibility of anyone being able to take what you want, whether that's a specific person, a job, or anything else, just because there's only one of that thing or that person around. So here's the deal. This whole manifestation thing works on two premises. The first premise is that imagination, your imagination, is God, and it is the only thing that creates reality. Your imagination creates every single thing that you see, that you hear, that you taste, or that you smell around you. Of course, you don't create every single thing consciously. In fact, you probably lived many years on this planet without ever having heard about manifestation and how your imagination creates reality. But even during those years, before you first heard about manifesting, your imagination was still what was creating your reality. You just didn't know it, so you only created subconsciously and not deliberately or intentionally. The second premise is that everyone is you pushed out. Since it's your own imagination that creates everything in your reality, that means that every single person, situation, or thing you encounter in your reality is a reflection of you. I've done a video explaining the concept of everyone is you pushed out in detail. So if you haven't already watched it, then I'll put the link up to the right and also below in the description so that you can go watch it in order to better understand what it means. But essentially, if every single person in your reality is you pushed out, then that means that there can never truly be any competition, because there's no other person to compete with, since everyone is you pushed out. So keeping in mind that everyone is you pushed out, what happens when someone else wants to manifest the exact same thing that you want? Let's see what the possible results are in linear time. When I say linear time, I mean the way we're used to perceiving and understanding time all our lives, where events happen one after the other in a long line, and there's a past that's set in stone and cannot be changed, and a specific future that eventually manifests and becomes the present, and then it also becomes the past and it's also set in stone. This is the way we're taught time works, right? there's one specific past that you can't change, and if two people want to manifest the exact same thing and there's only one of that thing, for example, one specific position at one specific company, then by definition, only one person can be the winner, and the other will be the loser. And if we look back to what happened, say 3 years later, we can say with certainty which one was the winner and which one was the loser, because in linear time, the past is fixed and cannot be changed. You'll see why I keep talking about linear time and how this is relevant to who wins in just a bit. But first, let's talk about the possible outcomes in a situation where two people want to manifest the exact same thing, looking at events from this linear understanding of time that we're all familiar with. Both you and another person want to manifest the exact same thing. So here's how it would work. First of all, we have already established that everyone, including that person, is you pushed out. This means that the person who wants to manifest that same thing or that same specific person you want is also you pushed out. They're also a manifestation of you. So they're behaving according to how you, consciously or unconsciously, expect them to behave. So the first possible way for this to play out is this. You realize that since everyone is you pushed out, there is no competition, and that person who wants the same thing that you want cannot be a competitor because they are you pushed out. They're a manifestation of your own imagination. Once you realize this, you realize that they're now irrelevant. They're just an aspect of you. You cannot be in competition with yourself and lose. It would be like playing chess with yourself and then crying because you beat you. So in this scenario, you realize that everyone is you pushed out, which means there's no competition, and that if there's someone who is playing the role of the competitor or the opposition, then this person is just a manifestation of you. If at this point you withdraw your attention from this person as if they don't even exist, then this will eventually manifest in your 3D physical reality, and the person will cease to play any important role in your life. So you will be the one who manifests that thing you both wanted for yourself. A second possible scenario is this. You realize that there's someone else who wants what you want, and then you panic, and you forget that your imagination is God and that everyone, including that person, is you pushed out. In that scenario, you go back to being asleep, meaning you have stopped acknowledging your divine power and your ability to manifest anything you desire through the power of your imagination. You make your competition important and you hand them the prize. So in that scenario, the other person, even though they're you pushed out, they win because you used your imagination to hand them their desire by making them important and better than you in your mind. So when we're looking at things from a linear perspective, of there's only one reality, so there must be a winner and a loser always, those two scenarios are your main options. But what happens if both you and that other person use the exact same techniques in the exact same way with exactly the right combination of thoughts and feelings? In other words, what happens if both of you are true masters in manifesting your desires in the physical world? If you both realize from the start that the other person is yourself pushed out. Now it gets confusing, right? If both of you are gods, and if each of you possess a power of imagination that is the sole thing that creates your reality, then how can you both manifest the exact same thing when there's only one of that thing? The answer to that is actually very simple. You can't. Not if we see this world as the only world and time as linear. From your perspective of this world as the only possible world, one is going to be the winner and the other is going to be the loser. Always. But you can both win, and you can both manifest the exact same thing for yourselves. And the reason why is because time isn't linear, and this isn't the only world in existence. If you've been following my channel for a while, then you already know that time isn't linear and that there are infinite variations of the world, of reality. For example, if you use the revision technique to change the past, what happens? When we see time as linear, changing the past isn't possible. But if you've used the revision technique, then you've already experienced for yourselves that it does work. and it does change things. And often, even the memory of the event you revised changes, not just for yourself, but for the other people involved too. They remember suddenly a very different version of what happened back then. The reason the revision technique works is the same reason two people can want the exact same thing and both can be winners. For any given event and for any given moment in time, there are several possible outcomes or possibilities. Say, for example, that you have been focusing your imagination on manifesting a relationship with a specific person, and that specific person just came up to you to ask you out. Them asking you out is one of multiple possible scenarios, multiple possibilities, or probable outcomes. For example, another probability is that they were walking towards you to ask you out, but they chickened out. So they just walked past you without asking you out. Or they were walking towards you and they tripped, and they're now in the hospital with a broken leg. Or they were walking towards you when someone else went up to them and asked them out, and they said yes. So they never came to you to ask you out after that because they already had a date. Now we're used to thinking of those as probabilities that weren't manifested. One of them is what manifested, and we call that the past, and the others just never happened, right? But the thing is, they did happen, only not in your reality. So what basically happens is that reality splits into several different versions, and each version differs from the others depending on what happened in that particular instant. And that's why your imagination is what creates reality. Because when you focus your imagination on a particular outcome, you place yourself in the version of reality where what you desire is manifested for you. Since the other person's imagination is also God, though, they can also use their imagination to place themselves in the version of reality where they have what they wanted. For example, the specific person you also wanted. So you can both get what you want at the same time, just in different realities. I know this may sound too far-fetched, but you don't notice it when it happens. From your perspective, you observe one of the original outcomes I mentioned. Either you manifest that thing or that person for yourself, or the other person does, so they win. And that's because in your reality, it's your imagination that's God. So what you imagine manifests. And in that other person's reality, their imagination is God. So what they imagine manifests. Think of your reality and their reality as two separate bubbles. They may look almost identical, but they're individual bubbles, not the same bubble. In your bubble, if you imagine correctly, you win and they lose. In their bubble, if they imagine correctly, they win and you lose. In your bubble or reality, there's one probable version of that other person, and it's the version that doesn't get that thing or that relationship you also wanted because you got it instead. In their bubble or reality, there's a probable version of you. That's the version that doesn't get that person or that thing because they got it instead. You each have your own individual reality or bubble because everything and everyone is you pushed out. So that bubble is all you pushed out. So you don't have to worry about anyone else wanting to manifest the same thing you want or how to beat them because in your bubble you call the shots. And you don't have to worry about taking anything away from anyone else because in their bubble, they call the shots. Therefore, they can manifest whatever they want for themselves too. You just won't be able to observe it because it's not part of what's happening in your bubble. If that sounds too confusing to understand, think of one of those movies where a genie or something grants someone a wish that changes their past. Say, for example, the protagonist is someone who just got fired and they're divorced and unhappy and they've been regretting not marrying their high school sweetheart because they think their life would have been so much better if they had. So the genie grants their wish and suddenly they find themselves living in a different house with their high school sweetheart and their 3 kids and everything is different. Well, that version of reality, the version where they married their high school sweetheart instead of going to college, for example, already existed somewhere. The genie just took the person from their reality and placed them in that alternate version, which would be their life if they had married their high school sweetheart. In the same way, When you use revision to change something in your past, things change in your present and future because by changing that one thing in the past, you transport yourself to a different version of reality than the one you were in before doing the revision. You just don't realize it in most cases because the change isn't usually as dramatic as it would be in a movie. And unlike those movies that usually have an underlying lesson of how if you change things everything is going to fall apart and you're going to regret it and miss what you used to have, in real life it is your divine right to use your imagination to manifest your desires. And things won't go impossibly wrong if you do, because you are the one who calls the shots. And even if something doesn't turn out the way you hoped, you can just use your imagination to manifest something better. Alright, I hope this helped clear up any confusion around the whole issue of multiple people wanting to manifest the same thing, and that you realize now why you don't have to worry about this. If you like this video, then please give it a thumbs up, share it so that other people can also benefit from it, and if you haven't already, then hit the subscribe button and the bell icon, because I put out new videos every Sunday to help you manifest an amazing life.